And here we are, a small patch of forest that feels frozen in time. A farmer once told me that what brews in this small stream of water is cursed. He said some animals die because of supply and demand, but when demand goes dry, there goes your lifeblood. There goes your dignity. There goes your humanity. He says their life force streams through this old stream. This was their last taste of anything. He said he stood here, right in this spot, and his tears drained into this murky miasma. This stream reached out and ate his sorrow. He said, this trickling glade gave its innocence to heal his wounds. The old farmer is no longer here, but I always remembered his words. Now, I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I'll be exploring this isolated forest here in the heart of Antlers, Oklahoma. I already feel something here. Quaint little forests like this. You could say they are life's playground. When you're a kid, you don't always appreciate places like this as much as you should. Because when you're a kid, you're part of nature. But as you grow, you get further and further removed from nature. Eventually, when you return, it feels alien yet nostalgic. Anyway, this patch of land we're on sits in the Kiamichi Mountains and Wichita National Forest region. Unlike most of Oklahoma, that is flat, dusty, cowboy core, this area is dense forest, hills, and winding back roads. And to my pleasant surprise, it's one of the least populated areas in the entire state. You can walk miles in here. No traffic, no people. It's just wind, crunchy leaves, tangly foliage, and the occasional couple of randos filming in the forest. Out here, the forest is a mix of pine and hardwood, which creates weird lighting. The sunlight doesn't hit evenly, and shadows feel deeper than they should. One might say high humidity plus heat equals natural haze. Many towns in this region have fewer than 2,000 people. Some areas average less than 10 people per square mile. There are places where your nearest neighbor might be half a mile away and emergency services take a long time to arrive. Translation: if something weird happens out here, how no one's around to confirm it happened, then it didn't. Anyway, this region is historically tied to the Choctaw Nation. Many of the towns, like Antlers, sit on former or current tribal land. The forests have centuries of history before modern towns existed. Storytelling traditions include spirits, night beings, and cautionary tales. Don't pay any attention to them. They're mid as heck, bro. Just act like they're not there. Speaking of cautionary tales, I can give you one right now. If you ever travel off the beaten path, expect to get tangled on the forest floor, for it is certainly not a friend of bipedal creatures like us. As for the wildlife, there is bobcats. Rare, but eerie if spotted. Owls, of course. If you ever wonder why your cat went missing, one might consider an owl as part of the usual suspects. Then, there's wild hogs. Those are aggressive and unpredictable, definitely worth avoiding. And then there's coyotes. They make a sound that seems like screaming sometimes. And they are another culprit in why your cat went missing. But animals aside, what you'll see the most of out here in rural southeast Oklahoma is dirt roads. Endless dirt roads that aren't on maps loop back strangely, dead end into woods or old properties, and some are old logging roads or forgotten access paths. I've seen roads that start off all confident, nice and wide, like they've got purpose, and then a mile later, they just kinda vanish into nothing. Or maybe it's not nothing. Maybe along some of those dirt roads are secret places. I did, in fact, find a poem written in marker on a smooth rock along one of those roads. The poem went like this. Nightmares slink in their dark lairs, thinking of plots where everything rings with the sting of depravity. Thou have seen I have not always danced on the edge of the world. I have oft lost my mind in labyrinths, blind, and broken my bread with the flies. Shut up. Who could have wrote such an edgy poem in the middle of nowhere? Me. That's who. Another thing I like about quaint little towns like this, if you walk far enough in any direction, you're bound to hit another forest. I highly recommend taking these little slices of time throughout your day to go on a walk, to embrace the danger of letting your mind roam. But be warned, thinking too much is dangerous.
It feels like you could just take this off the tree like it is and use it for floor. This feels like a floor. Like someone just turned this tree into a floor material while it was still alive. Like, what the heck?
Watching your dear child discover that trees are made out of floor material is one of the wonders of life. Anyway, as I was saying a moment ago, thinking can lead to dangerous thoughts. Thoughts like, maybe you should stop trying to improve your weaknesses. And, instead, you should be doubling and tripling down on the things you're naturally gifted at. Perhaps the path of least resistance is the one you'll go farthest at. What happens if you stop wasting time getting mediocre at something you're bad at? Instead, what if you become elite at the thing you're naturally good at? But what if what you're good at is worth nothing? I'll tell you. When nothing works, the only way through is to drag all your tomorrows into today and light them on fire. Blaze a hole through the night with an ancient light that darkness is afraid of. After that, the dizzying days of the week will no longer exist. There will simply be the days of the year that you weren't afraid to live. Anyway, I guess it's time to stop inner monologuing and pay attention to my kid. Look at him, letting out his innate destructive force. Cute. Now he's learning that nature only looks fragile, but its structural integrity is surprising. Anyway, along here we come across the ruins of something that used to matter. Now, it waits here in time as a meaningfully shaped, yet meaningless in purpose, ruin. A few slabs of concrete, some rusted metal. A wall that stands out among the forest background. Limbs and leaves have settled over everything like a blanket that's been tucked in for years. The trees have grown up around the ruins. No signs of human life, besides us. Places like this always feel peaceful to me. I feel like that's how this whole world should be. Feels like remembering how to be. And, of course, my dear child is thinking about jumping from way up there. Sure as the ADHD runs in his blood, it burns to go soaring through the air, for it is the will of the primordial animal inside us. It's that animal that wants to climb, jump, balance, and test the edges of things. Adults usually train that creature out of ourselves. Kids, however, haven't learned how to ignore it yet. Kids haven't learned to be ground-dwelling sloths who drag themselves along the pavement, fueled on coffee, shuffling from one obligation to the next so they can pay taxes and answer emails.
Still can't do it. That's crazy. I thought I could do it now. No, this would be hard. Now, do you want to try and climb this day?
Of course he'd want to play on the fallen tree. It's what I'd have went for.
You want to go for it? Oh, check this out. This is what I call the kid's out. You take this stick right here, and it leaves the balance on. So it takes you right up here. Boom. Perfect. Now that's the kid's route.
This poor tree. It's completely cooked. I ponder what happened. Maybe lightning hit it. Maybe a human burned it down. Now it's just a wooden skeleton of what used to be upright and alive. The inside of the trunk is bright orange where it snapped. Almost looks fresh, even though the bark around it has already turned black and brittle. Speaking of black and brittle, this might be a little dangerous to play on.
My pops is here to rescue me.
March in southeastern Oklahoma is a strange middle ground, but spring has already started sending wasps. And when I say wasps, I don't mean white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. No, I mean those annoying red, stinging pieces of shit insects. Fuck those things. Sorry for my language, but for real. Anyway, most trees out here are still bare. You can see straight through the woods in a way you can't during the summer. In a few weeks, this whole hillside will close in with green again, and these open lines of sight will disappear. Right now, the forest is in that quiet transition period. The leaves on the ground are last year's. But underneath them, things are already waking up. Tiny plants start pushing through first, then the insects. Then the birds come back in larger numbers. If I remember right, southeastern Oklahoma sits right where several ecosystems meet. Pine, forest, hardwood hills, and the edge of the Wichita Mountains.
This tree's so rotted over here that it just breaks the moment I step on it. Look at that, it's falling apart the moment I step on it. You see that? So, what's up? Why is it doing that?
And here he is discovering one of those small forest mysteries. From the outside, it still looks like a tree, but inside it's already turning back into soil. That's something the woods are very good at. Nothing stays wasted for long. A tree grows for decades, then it falls. Then the insects, the fungi, the tiny unseen things go to work. Bit by bit, it softens, breaks apart, until eventually the forest just absorbs it. And someday another tree will grow right out of the same ground. Speaking of the ground, there are old stories about the forests here, about spirits that wander between the trees. One of them is called the Nalasa Chito, sometimes described as a shadow spirit that moves quietly through the woods. The stories say it doesn't attack people, it simply follows them, waiting for someone whose mind is already full of darkness. Of course, every forest has its legends. But when the woods are this quiet, you can see why people once believed something might be watching from between the trees. When it comes to my darling child versus gravity, I bet you can guess which one remains undefeated. Now we're entering the dramatic aftermath phase. The wounded explorer, the survivor of the Great Branch incident of 2026. He's perfectly fine, by the way.
I think I got my head so hard it gets that thick I smell vanilla.
Thanks for coming along with us on this interesting journey through the woods of Oklahoma. If you enjoyed the adventure, or at least my handsome and amusing son, then drop us a like and subscribe for more. Plenty more misadventures on the way.